What's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. It is the aftermath, and it's the aftermath of what will likely be the most memorable regular season win for the Patriots. 28-24 over the Ravens, coming back from a 24-13 deficit. Mike Vrabel after the game on the win.
Well, I mean, I think that it was good to be in a game like this where we battled and it was tied and we got down and, momentum kind of shifted the other way and our guys battled back. We got stops. Offense continued to attack and our quarterback, battled and our receivers came through and our runners and it was I felt like it was a big team win. It was a huge team win. Andy kicked the ball well. So again, it was just, we lost a lot of guys. A lot of guys went down. A lot of guys stepped up, and we're gonna have to get healthy. But I think that this was a great win for us.
Phil, Patriots are 12-3. So are the Denver Broncos. If the Patriots can win their final two games, and the Broncos happen to lose to the Chargers, which are a playoff-bound team as well, the Patriots will leapfrog them and become the number one seed. Additionally, just win one of the final two games. You're the AFC East divisional champions, New England Patriots. Can you discuss, instead of all the implications, Drake Maye's performance and the import of this game and the way it unfolded coming off the loss to the Bills?
Well, this was his first fourth quarter come-from-behind game-winning moment in that last drive. 89 yards, and he starts it with a deep shot to Mac Hollins, and he hits Stephon Diggs on 4th and 2, and they end up punching it in with Ramondre Stevenson. That's the first time he's done that, Tom. Now, I don't think the Patriots were necessarily lacking confidence in their quarterback, but to do anything for the first time, specifically on the road, come from behind, get a win and snatch it from the jaws of defeat, I think going into the postseason, the value in that is that now when you do see more good teams, and I'll use air quotes on that. I know the Ravens have a losing record. It's been a weird year for them. But you're going to see more good teams, playoff caliber teams, at home, maybe on the road. And the fact that you've done this now, to me, checks a very significant box in the career of your young quarterback. But it does so not just for him. It does it for his entire organization. It gives them belief. If they're down in a big spot, they have the ability. They've shown it now. They have the ability to come back and win.
And I think when you look at, there's two different ways to look at it. Is to look at it macro, okay, going forward, 25, 26, 27, 28, for the next half decade, assuming the Patriots will be smart enough to re-up with Drake Maye. The forecast for this team and this franchise is on an upward trajectory. Ton of money to spend. They're not even close to having what you would call the core of their team, or at least the outside of the core of the team where they want it to. But for this year, and I've said this before, these are the good old days. This is a team right now to see it rise the way it has and to see the different contributions from different players, from Stephon Diggs, who was on the scrap heap to an extent, come in and have another 138-yard, 10-catch game, high-leverage plays, to see a rookie like Kyle Williams make the plays that he did, and has continued to. He's only got 7 catches, 3 of them for touchdowns. He's averaging 27 yards per catch. To see them show the resilience that they did, whether it be a fake punt that went bad, whether it be a very easy Zay Flowers touchdown, a very easy Derrick Henry touchdown, another very easy Derrick Henry touchdown, to come up with a turnover on the second drive of the game when you're on the verge of seemingly getting carved up for a 14-0 deficit. All of those things for a team that, despite its record, there's not a lot of teams around the NFL that would trade places roster-wise with a ton of these players. All of their value is on the uptick. But if you look at this season right now and what they're doing, it just really puts a lot of wind in their sails. Are you seeing plays in which you can say that play is made because there's a belief and a sacrifice going on? And I start with Diggs, kind of. The effort that he gives on some plays, whether it's going up high to make a play on an onside kick recovery, and then he does something similar tonight for a high stretched out catch, or the 4th and 2. Those are plays that I think really speak to that. Go ahead.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Just a tremendous game from Diggs. A money game, literally, where he's making money because he's reached some incentives 70 catch incentive, $500,000. Good for him, but he's performing on money downs. And to take that 4th and 2 catch and then turn it into an explosive play and basically get them, I believe, into field goal range.
Yep, got down to the 25.
To be able to tie that game at least. It's just such a monster play, and it's like everybody knows that they're going to Stephon Diggs in those moments, even though the numbers have been down of late and the production hasn't been there and the snap count hasn't always been there. He's still getting doubled at times last week by Buffalo. This week it looked like our Darius Washington, I believe, was the defender for Baltimore. He tried to jump the route because he was so sure that Drake Maye was going to Stephon Diggs on 4th down. Good guess. Maye was just able to thread that pass to Diggs. I think the resiliency and the confidence to bounce back from those situations, though, Tom, I think it starts with the quarterback. And to see him get just manhandled the way he was specifically in the second half. Remember, he gets hit, then he gets hit again, but he gets twisted to the ground, and he's slow to get up. That was late in the 3rd quarter. Then in the 4th quarter on those 2 touchdown drives where they had to go 70-plus yards and 80-plus yards. I mean, he gets drilled on a slant, sort of a deeper slant, a glance route to Kyle Williams, completes several more passes, including the Kyle Williams touchdown. The last drive, he gets drilled on a blitz, hits Stephon Diggs over the middle, and still is able to bounce back and make all those throws to help them all the way down the field and score. That he can bounce back from that physical punishment, from the mistakes earlier in the game, his resiliency is extremely, extremely impressive.
That to me, and I do want to hear from Mike Vrabel on Maye's toughness and the beating that he took, and also Maye talking about the elephant in the room of Buffalo, but he's making these plays completely off script in some instances, and he is given the latitude to do that. Now, does he make a mistake and get strip sacked? Yes, he does. He's got one hand on the ball, but he's not a player that, while last year I thought he might be somebody who's going to be a repeat offender, as most players are, for a while, he has all this around him, all these different boxes that he has to check mentally at the line of scrimmage, understanding the coverage, getting the right calls, making sure everyone's lined up correctly, getting the call in, having it on time, then after the snap, processing what's being disguised and now shown, taking the physical abuse, making accurate throws, deciding which throw to make. It's really astounding. And there's one play in particular, before we get to the beating, I really like the touchdown pass to Hunter Henry because it's something that Josh McDaniels has clearly incorporated in the last couple of weeks. We're going to get him on the perimeter in the red zone. That might be a good way for us to start to extract a little bit more efficiency down there. They get him on the perimeter. Great release by Hunter Henry to get into the route. And then there's a point at which Maye could flip out there and say, well, he's back a little too far. Maybe I can beat him to the pylon. It's easier than throwing it. He just calmly looks down the defensive end of the edge rusher, waits for him to commit, and then just throws a little water balloon over the top to him. And that kind of poise right there just shows the point of he has made so many strides on so many fronts in such a quick period of time. And he does seem like a guy who's got a very busy mind. And I got a busy mind. But I fixate
Don't I know it?
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
But I'll fixate on one little thing, and I'll keep going over it. And did I do it right? He just fixes it and moves on to the next thing. Here's Mike Vrabel on the Drake Maye punishment.
I just thought gritty. I mean, he got hit. He got hit. They pressured, or they got home when they didn't. And, he just kept getting up and battling. I didn't flinch. And, again, I think it was important for all of us to, have that game, the entire team.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a wake-up call last week. Like, we got a chance to win the game with the game-winning drive, and this week it was like, man, let's not have that same feeling 2 weeks in a row. And I felt like that, and it was kind of elephant in the room, kind of going out there and that last once the defense got the ball back, and like I said, it's just trust and belief, and I like our chances when there are those scenarios. I like our chances.
We're going to stick with Drake Maye for one quick second, Phil. Of his 31 completions, which ones stood out to you the most? I'm going to give you a couple options here. You got the Williams touchdown. You have the Matt Collins catch, which was a high-leverage one when they were really needing a third down conversion. The high one that he pulled in just before the Austin Hooper throw down to the 2.
Which led to that Hunter Henry touchdown. Yes.
And then the 4th and 2 catch to Diggs. Those are your options.
Boy, I think it's the Diggs catch. only because it helped lead to this thing that we haven't yet seen him do. And it was the thing that he couldn't do the week before. The Patriots defense got hammered, and rightfully so, last weekend. 5 consecutive touchdown drives. Can't happen. They did get a stop at the very end. And Drake Maye did have an opportunity to drive the field, and that's what he's talking about, that elephant in the room. They had the chance to do what they did tonight. They didn't do it. They got another chance the very next week on the road against a team that was defensively, I think for the second week in a row, a team with a good head coach, looked at its defense that week before going up against Drake Maye and said, oh boy, fellas, we're going to throw all sorts of crap at this guy this week. Because the Bills did it last week and it worked. And the Ravens did it this week and it worked at times. But in the most important spot, on the most important down of the game, he was able to do the thing that a lot of people thought he was going to do, which is throw to Stephon Diggs, but he did so accurately, on time, allowed for yards after catch, which set up the rest of that drive and ultimately the game-winning score. So that, to me, even though on its face, if you didn't know the situation, it would probably wouldn't be in the top 10 of most impressive throws of the night on Sunday Night Football. But because of the spot, that, to me, I think ranks number 1.
The Bills limited Drake Maye, and Drake Maye's quarterback passer rating last week was relatively low, lowest of the season. His quarterback rating, how he played the position last week, was actually pretty good. I'm not going to give him a D, which the 65 rating would equate to, because he was good with his feet and he executed drives. But it looked like the Ravens said, you know what, we're gonna play excuse me, we're gonna play coverage here and try and make him figure it out. For the first time, he crests 300 yards, ends up with 380, 31 for 44. He's got the 2 touchdown passes. He should have had another 50 yards passing, wiped out on a defensive pass interference that was not called. And he does all of that. I'm not saying he's blueprint proof.
Don't you dare say that.
But because that's dangerous.
That's dangerous, babe.
The third rail topic.
Yes, sir.
But you don't, the Buffalo Bills played one thing last week, and the Ravens said, let's try what they did. And it didn't work. It didn't work to the tune of 380. Again, he's not friggin' perfect. He threw a pick early. He had a fumble. But he's really friggin' good.
He's damn good. Again, he took points off the board, which he acknowledged after the game with that fumble, with that pick. And I actually would love to know a little bit more about that pick itself. And Brian Hoyer was great talking to us on the post-game show. There are scramble drill rules. And so did Kayshon Boutte do exactly what Drake Maye was anticipating? Did they understand the quote-unquote rules in the same way? Was it just a miss of a throw, which it could have been? Behind, a little short. So we'd love to sort of be able to break that one down in greater detail. But long story short, he made decisions that took points off the board for the Patriots. And for him to come back with the level of confidence that he has, for him to say after the game, Tom, I like us in that spot. That game-winning spot, I like us in that spot. Why? and it's not, obviously it's because he has a lot of belief in himself and in his teammates, but to feel that way about yourself when you have never done that thing before, which is make that game-winning drive in the fourth quarter when you're down, to me is sort of a special mental quality to have.
The resilience of the team is what's kind of remarkable. And we've seen it throughout the year in different points. And I'll just, again, another aside, because it's late. It's 1:18. You're not listening to it at 1:18 because this ain't live, but it's late. Been a lot of talking. However, this team is 12-3. It lost to the Raiders. For those of you listening, you're going to know where I'm going. They lost to the Raiders. They led, should have won. They handed the game to Pittsburgh. They damn sure should have won against Buffalo. You don't have to squint very hard to see 15-0. It's insane. And a lot of that is tied to the resilience because they make mistakes as a team that's going from really bad to really good quickly will do. The pick, the fumble, the breathtakingly easy touchdowns. Each of the 3 touchdowns that Baltimore scored were really easy. Plays that would make you on the sideline go, holy crap. Are we showing up or are we showing up? Because the Derrick Henry touchdown in the first half was easy. The Zay Flowers touchdown run, you're like, he's going to score on that. Oh, my God. And then the other Derrick Henry touchdown. They had a fake punt, which was a really head-scratching play. And that's one of those things you don't ask about in the postgame after a win like that. But hopefully we could flesh that out at some point.
Yeah, you probably ask the next day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that just a fascinating decision because with Tyler Huntley playing quarterback at that point, do you – and I don't know the answer. I don't know even personally how I feel. Having watched it not work, I would venture to say the better idea against a bad quarterback is try to make him drive a long field. But I wonder if in their logic, Tom, they say to themselves, well, if we don't get it, yes, they'll have a short field, but it's Tyler Huntley playing quarterback. So does that mitigate the risk in their eyes at all? Because it's not a guaranteed touchdown giving the ball to Tyler Huntley on your own 40 the same way it would be a Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen. How do you feel about it?
I feel like kick it away to Tyler Huntley
Deep.
and
Kick
take
it
your
deep.
chances.
Yes,
Now
right.
the alternative logic might be, well, we kick it away. We're having a hell of a time stopping them on the ground, so they're just going to chew about 8 minutes off the clock if we give it to them now. But to do it on 4th and 10 with a guy who probably hasn't carried the ball in a design play yet, Marte Mapu, and he ran like he hadn't because you can't run that way if you're not out at recess with the ball like that. You can't do it in prime time in the National Football League.
Well, it also didn't look like he had – I'm sure they practiced the play. But as soon as he gets the ball, he's kind of fading away from the guy it looks like he's supposed to throw to, back across the field, which makes it just an incredibly difficult throw to try to make.
Yeah, roll. You don't want John Elway doing that on the regular.
Right.
Roll right, throw left. It just was not 4th and 10. Let's have Marte Mapu throw. Doesn't seem like a great idea. Plus, there's a PI that doesn't get called. So all of those things that would make you throw up your hands and go, not our night. We sucked last week against Buffalo, and we gave that one away, and shit, we're doing it again. We're doing it again! And they don't do that. And why? Again, these are the good old
Well, there's a
days.
level of belief when you see the quarterback make some of the throws he's making, and it's season long, right? He's built up a resume. Now, for all these guys that they've all watched on tape, they've all been in the huddle for, they've all been on the field for. I remember in week 5, Garrett Bradbury's a veteran in the league. I think this is his 8th season. Kind of being in awe of this 23-year-old quarterback who was stiff-arming defensive linemen and making throws on the road in Buffalo on Sunday Night Football to help them win the game. So I think that just trickles down to the rest of the team. It's a belief that Maye has in himself is probably where I would start. But these guys know that he might actually hit me on this dig 23 yards down the field, as the third read on the backside of the play. So I better run my ass off and be focused and be ready to make this play. He might hit me with a bucket throw 37 yards down the field in the front quarter of the end zone. So, this is my chance. So I just think when you have somebody who has all the physical skills that he does, to be able to lead them back in the fashion he did tonight from a double digit, easy for me to say, at 123 deficit, I think it helps these guys have the kind of resiliency that you're describing.
Let's hear from Stephon Diggs. He was in the locker room afterwards. He said, "Prime time is my time." He also had this to say about the Patriots putting faith in him and his performance tonight.
I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm more thankful that, Mr. Kraft, Graves, Coach Todd, McDaniels, those guys took a chance on me. I was coming off an injury. I was healing up faster than anybody. So them to be able to take a chance on me and give me an opportunity to show the world who I am, I'm back and better than ever.
Phil, why is this wide receiver room who has Mac Hollins on a one-year deal on Mac Hollins?
Yes.
$2.5 million. Kyle Williams with a third-round pick. Kayshon Boutte was a 6th-round pick. Still has, I believe, 27 catches on the season. I'd have to double-check that. Diggs, who, it took a while for anybody to sign him, and he's playing for less than a guy who's got 76 catches for 800 yards would presumably get. Are they a good wide receiver core?
Yeah.
Or are they a productive wide receiver core?
I think they're both. I think we're starting to see the ceilings of some of these players that we couldn't really see before Drake Maye came of age. It would have been really hard to predict that Kayshon Boutte would be among the league leaders in yards per catch this season, or as good in contested situations as he's been this season. Second in the league, almost 70% completions when he has less than a yard of separation this year, according to Next Gen Stats. It would have been really hard to know, and we sat here and we predicted. You and I both thought Stephon Diggs would be a good player for the Patriots. I think we both predicted he would be less than 1,000 yards, or were you over 1,000?
I think I had him right around where.
We can go back and check. This is on the record. We've written it out.
No, I had like 75 and 800. He's at 76 and 869.
He's there now, right?
Yeah.
And I thought this would be around his 76 is probably even higher than I thought in terms of the number of catches. But the 800-ish yards, I think, is close to where I was. Anyway, they're better than we thought because they're getting great quarterback play, which is allowing them to play at their best. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, because you don't account for the play extension that exists. If we did a whole cut up and breakdown of all the, and some website probably does, on Drake Maye after 3 seconds, who does he hit? There goes the stomach again. Who does he hit?
I hope that is audible.
I know. What's his completion percentage?
It's like a third member of the podcast.
My stomach, my gurgly stomach. I get hungry. What his? I'll promise I'll try and find it. Like on restarted plays, he's not Ben Roethlisberger, who was no fun to watch. He just wander around back there. The way Maye does it is really interesting because he's generally stepping up, as opposed to Josh Allen, who just coasts toward the sidelines. Maye is a stepping up kind of, which is what you would prefer because it still keeps the entire field available. When you roll right, you kind of Xing out the guy that over on the left.
And if you get sacked when you're rolling, a lot of times you're rolling backwards and sideways. You end up losing a lot of yards. When he gets sacked, he's got a ton of sacks this year, Tom, but the yardage lost on sacks hasn't been as significant as you'd think because of what you're describing.
Yeah. So between Diggs, the wide receivers in general, it'll be interesting to see where things go going forward. Way too early. Nice win. Not going to talk about 2026, but there will be a point at which we start to say, okay, what will they do next year with Stephon Diggs? What will they do with, because Diggs is performing at more than a $12.5 million receiver level. Be that as it may.
I do think it was encouraging, I think, for the Patriots to see that after struggling with some reps of man coverage from the Bills last week and really struggling with man coverage over the course of the last month or so, for the Ravens to play what looked like a fair amount of man coverage, and especially in important situations, and for them to beat it. I look at this game now, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm saying, okay, well, the Bills played a lot of two-man, so two high safeties and man coverage underneath. They spied every once in a while. That seemed to work. And the Ravens, they played man, though, and the Patriots, they found a way to win. Drake Maye had a career game in terms of his passing yardage. Then they played coverage. A lot of time, 4-man rushes, 3-man rushes from Baltimore. So it was like they flooded. It was almost like, I don't think this is exactly what Rex Ryan would do, but Rex Ryan tried to jam up the middle of the field on Tom Brady with bodies. They dropped a lot of 7, 8 guys into coverage, and it led to a lot of kind of dancing around behind the line of scrimmage because nobody was open, but he was able to dance because there weren't a lot of guys rushing him either. But is that the way to play him? Because, again, he just had a career day.
I think that is the wrong way to play him. I really do, because he is mobile enough. You do have to have whoever's in coverage. If you're playing zone, which you will be, you have to keep eyes on him. And if you see him start towards the line because he's smart enough to not roll right and say, oh, well, he's just buying time going the right. If you see him start coming up the middle, you have to say, shit, here he comes.
You know what? That's exactly what happened on the 2-point conversion that they hit. It was sort of an extended play situation. He started to kind of run up the middle. The linebacker that was chasing Ramondre Stevenson stopped because he was going to have to try to stop him. And he just flipped it to little 2-point flip to Ramondre.
So they have to be wary of that. also the other resilient aspect, and we'll get a little bit to the defense because it continues to be a run defense, which would be concerning. But the Patriots won tonight. Again, it's worth pointing out their best defensive player, at least in the front seven, is Milton Williams. He didn't play again. Their second most productive, or their most productive tackler, Bobby Spillane, not playing. Their left tackle didn't play. Travion Henderson left with a concussion. Those are four of their best players this year who were not playing again tonight. Every team has injuries, but it's not a high-tier roster that should be able to withstand those numbers of injuries unless they get superlative performances. Perfect performances? No flipping way. It wasn't perfect. But it's impressive. When you add those guys back in, does that reconfigure the ceilings? Because they just lost narrowly to the Bills, and they beat the Ravens on the road without those guys. Does it change the way you look at the Patriots' fortunes maybe when those guys return and how good this team might be at full strength?
It does and it doesn't. It does in that I think getting Milton Williams back will significantly improve their pass rush, which has been lacking at times. And so to get somebody like that on the interior, not only is he a good player in his own right, but maybe attention that he draws helps guys like Kayvon Chason or Harold Landry or Anthony Jennings, if he happens to be out there, on the edge. Maybe it helps Christian Barmore do a little bit more in terms of disruption. I think he is a key piece to get back, and he is eligible to start practicing and come back now that he's missed 4 games. What I think I would still be concerned by if I'm Mike Vrabel is that even though you're missing a number of bodies in the middle of your defense, and this I need to sort of flesh out this thought. You're missing Spillane, you're missing Williams, you're missing Tonga for a lot of the game tonight. Tom, where were Baltimore's best run plays going? They were not going up the middle. They were going to the edges, at left and right, both, but outside, off tackle. And so does that improve with a Robert Spillane back on the field? Does that improve with Milton Williams back on the field? I don't know. It might, like just those guys pursuing at the right angles and maybe getting off blocks a little bit easier.
Well,
yes.
Somebody setting the edge to funnel it back to Spillane. Kayvon Chason had big plays, but we also saw, especially I think it was on the the second Derrick Henry touchdown run, he got thrown. Whoever the hell number 7 is on Baltimore, so it has to be a wideout. Yeah, Rashad Bateman just decleated Kayvon Chason, who's defensive end, on one of the runs.
I missed that. Saw Del Pettis take a pretty good shot from Isaiah Likely on one of those touchdown runs, too. Yeah, the fellas
were blocking. They're not Tavai, I think, and again, not a defensive coordinator, but have watched enough to think that on the first Derrick Henry touchdown run, you would have preferred to see Tavai stay a little bit outside instead of collapsing in, because once he collapsed in, he got swallowed up by a pulling guard, and then it just left a tackle in front of Christian Gonzalez, and the party was over.
I give them credit. It's good scheme. Like, there's not a lot of teams, I think, that can run those plays the way that Baltimore runs them. But I would be worried that the edges of my defense are vulnerable against the run. For Derrick Henry to have 7 yards per carry, Tom, and on a couple of those long ones really go towards the edges and untouched, that's something, if I'm an offensive coordinator for the Jets or Dolphins, whoever they see in the postseason, I would be looking at and saying, we're going to have some room out there, fellas.
I don't really love talking about I actually do like talking about officiating because I really like the rules.
You're great at talking about officiating, so I encourage it.
So, and last week I'm like defending this and that and this pass interference and that shared catch that wasn't between Marcus Jones. But the officiating tonight really pissed me off because, well, first here's Mike Vrabel on the officiating.
Unfortunate for Kayshawn. The penalty or whatever they called over there is completely, whatever they called over there, and then his ability to go down, which I thought he was competing for that ball, and I thought we were going to have that one. But, Kayshawn's going to help us out, and all the receivers are going to play roles throughout this year.
Did you get an explanation on why that wasn't a flag?
No. Here's what the explanation I got. You have to survive the ground. So I'm very aware of the catch rule, but that's all I got.
See, this pisses me off because when you have one friggin' job and you're the back judge, side judge, whatever referee, individual, umpire who's back there, and all your job is on the most watched television program every week in the country, which is Sunday Night Football, and you're watching a play with two individuals and you're not screened and you watch one player tackle another and you don't throw a flag, and the NFL is in cahoots with myriad gambling associations, whatever. You get what I'm saying here? And 12 years ago, Roger Goodell was saying, if we do that, every call is going to be scrutinized and people are going to be concerned. That kind of shit can't happen. You cannot have a 50-yard pass interference that everybody can tell from a 4-year-old to a 94-year-old, and the one guy who's responsible for making that decision decides not to make that decision. Because it just calls into question the integrity of the game and calls into mind anybody who wants to have a conspiracy theory. If you had the over for Keyshawn Boutte on yards, you lost money because of that. If
do you get yards for PI?
No, I don't think so. But he was. That's a good point by you. Shit.
No, your gripe would be you had the over in the game, and because that call wasn't made, the Patriots weren't able to drive the field and score. They ultimately, sort of erased the wrong that was done to them, which I think, again, the resiliency thing, I said it in real time. I said, boy, if they can bounce back from that, if they're not a little deflated by that.
If you had the over in penalty yards.
There you go. That's got to be it. You got to be able to gamble on that. I don't know that, but you have to somewhere.
Or Drake Maye completions. You had him at 32. Okay, boom, he got that taken away. And that would have paid off.
You still don't get a completion for that, Tom. I mean, I thought you were kind of joking.
1:35 in the morning.
It is 1:35.
Friggin' donkey. The point is, between the catch on the sideline, which needed to be clear and indisputable evidence that it was a catch, and it was not clear and indisputable, but the Jack Gibbons roughing the passer, combined with, I'd love to get an explanation as to what. You can't just fling the ball forward with a forward lateral, have the other team pick it off, and it just becomes a penalty. And if there weren't offsetting penalties, that just would have been a 10-yard and loss of down or some shit.
No, that would have had to have been because it was negated, it didn't matter.
But if it had mattered, if there was no roughing the passer, Tim Curran texted me during the game. He wants to know this as well.
Had to have been called a fumble and a Patriots recovery. Right?
Yeah, so there never should have been that roughing the passer because basically bumped into him.
I need to see another replay. Is there any chance?
I'm not even positive the ball went forward.
People that are listening to us and watching us right now are like, yes, we've seen it. You've seen the replay 10,000 times. Again, it's 136. Is there any chance that replay just missed? Every once in a while, they call the wrong guy for penalties. We know this, right? Is there any chance there was somebody else at his legs? Because he didn't go down. The one time you will see occasionally a roughing the passer call is a attempt to hit the quarterback low. Right.
Well, they called it on Gibbons. Gibbons was right next to him, and Gibbons, I kept looking at the end because he didn't do anything at the beginning. I was like, well, does he fall down and grab both of his Achilles and pull him? That didn't happen. He was standing there.
Try to find this.
Move on now to Keyshawn Boutte's offensive pass interference. Never extended his arm. Maybe he gave a little bit of a flipper, but you have to extend to have
He definitely created separation.
But it was a flipper. Generally speaking.
Is that a rule of thumb or is that a rule?
Generally speaking, you have to create separation with your arm.
If they see extension, they'll call it.
A flipper isn't going to do it.
Generally speaking.
Generally speaking.
But I think a flipper might still be a penalty. It's just you're less likely to be called for said penalty. I did not have an issue with that one. The non-call in the DPI is obvious and is laughable. Mike Tirico is basically laughing at the officiating crew, and he is the most professional guy in the business when it comes to in the moment and calling it like it is. But that was a laughable miss.
That was, as was Mike Tirico's tremendous call on the Mark Andrews forward lateral. What is he doing?
That was great.
great. Maybe we can get him on the pod. He's fun. He's a good fella.
I'm going to try to find a video of this roughing the passer right now. I have it right here.
Okay. Well, Phil.
Oh, wow. Oh, they must have called. Okay. This is the second time I think I'm seeing it. I think they must have called helmet to helmet on the quarterback.
Okay, that's what I was thinking because I don't see helmet to helmet and I don't see the neck get hit.
There's helmet contact there.
Is it a scrape?
I'll show it to you.
It's supposed to be forcible.
I'll show it to you. Don't yell at me. I didn't make the call.
There goes the stomach again. Yeah, that's not forcible. That's
but it is helmet. I see it more now than I did.
All right. Well, for Christ's
before.
sake.
It's not. I mean, it's not bad, but
He
it's
should
also
be lower.
not. That's not as surprising
Oh boy.
to me as I thought it might
Now
be.
I see where it is because I didn't think there was any head contact. Again, folks, we do apologize. You
Yeah,
got to
these
understand we're watching the game live. We sit out there. It's like before halftime. We do halftime live, so we don't have the DVR. We don't have a DVR opportunity anyway, and we can't run out to the other room and DVR shit because we have to watch the game as it unfolds. We spend more time on Monday watching the game, or Phil does. I just move on to the next thing.
I'm just going to let you know. I have a stat here when it comes to Drake Maye and scramble drill situations and what
good.
he does with the ball. We
We're
don't
gonna-
have to do it now. I just want to let you know I have it.
I want to do it because we're about to wrap this thing up. We're going to
Okay.
have dealing with injuries going forward, but that can be for tomorrow's pod, which will be your Tuesday Patriots Talk podcast pod, which is also on linear.
It is
That's
a
what
little
we
bit
call
of a
TV.
funky week. It's a little bit of a funky
We
week.
have a funky week.
We'll have a next Pats though as well. We still are going to have the breakdown. Quick slants this week.
Yeah. Tape and slants Wednesday, but it'll for Christmas Eve.
I'll love it.
Dun, 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 dun.
Girl, what a grinder you are. So Sports Info Solutions tracks what they call broken plays. So this is not done by the stopwatch. This is not 3.0 seconds plus, but this is what they would consider outside the normal rhythm and structure of a play.
Oh, goody.
So broken plays for the Patriots in 2025, receiving leaders. I think this is what you're getting at.
Yeah.
The leader in targets by a landslide, Stephon Diggs. He's also the leader in yards
Does it have numbers?
by a landslide. Yes. Diggs has 7 targets in those quote-unquote broken play situations. He's been on the field for 15 of those, but he's been targeted 7 times. So he's targeted basically half the time there's a broken play.
Mm-hmm.
And he's made 91 yards worth of receptions. The next closest in both those categories, yards and targets, is Matt Collins. 3 targets, 23 yards. So play breaks down, he's going to his guy, Stephon Diggs. Who is his guy? As low as the numbers have been of late, he is very much third, fourth down, red zone. You can see it based on the way the defense treats Diggs, where he was getting doubled last week in Buffalo, multiple sets of eyes on him when they're down by the goal line and he's on the field. That's the guy that Drake Maye goes to in those
The
spots.
weird thing about it was I'd never even noticed the Stephon Diggs drop-off because they were not unproductive. The Patriots were not unproductive in their win against the Giants. They were not unproductive in their game against Buffalo. They were not unproductive against the Bengals.
Well, and I think that
Was
was
that
a
the 3
testament.
games?
I think that was a testament to the fact that they are a well-balanced receiving
So
room.
that's why
they
I
don't
never-
need him necessarily to
Right.
go off, but they did tonight.
They did,
Yeah.
but that's why it never really registered to me when why are they ostracizing Stephon Diggs? I'm like, I don't know if they are. I think he's just getting covered a lot.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So, last week when May scores the touchdowns because 2 guys were covering Diggs and they opened an alleyway for him to run. So I never really thought it was a big deal, but there were not dedicated eyes, it seemed, to Diggs. There were more dedicated eyes to the receiver group as a whole and say, let's F with May. So effing with Sasquatch. Didn't pay off, huh? All right. Enough.
Sasquatch is a tough word to say at 142.49.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we had a great time tonight. It is 1:42. That means it's going to be about a 2:20 arrival at home. We're going to have a dip. We're probably going to shuffle off to bed around 3, and then we will be back at it tomorrow. Phil has the breakdown. We love you all very much. I hope your shopping is done, and I hope that you're getting yourself in the right frame of mind for a tremendous holiday. Bye.